Hello, my name is Troy Parker, President of Innovative Labor and Cleaning. As many of you know, we are a second chance company, meaning we hire individuals who are returning citizens coming home from being formerly incarcerated, and we also hire those who maybe have struggled in the past with substance abuse. What I wanted to talk to you today about is possibly looking at ways that you could help support this same population. Now, a lot of times there's a lot of stigma involved with hiring an individual who has been formerly incarcerated, or even someone who has struggled in the past with addiction or some other negative consequence. These things, I've heard them from many employers, but the truth is, statistics show that many individuals who are returning citizens or those who have struggled with drug addiction make for excellent employees. Now, I'm not saying that out of 100 employees, everyone is going to be perfect, but many times when people come home from formerly being incarcerated, they work harder to be, one, on time, be very productive, and be excellent employees. But many times, even though they're able to maybe get hired, the advancement for these individuals is not the same as other individuals. It is still held against them as they try to grow and advance through the company. And did you know that there are some 46,000 consequences that a returning citizen may have to deal with? I've talked about some of them in past videos, such as getting financing or finding a place to live, but there's many more. Also, I'd like to share a few other statistics with you. First, do you realize that over 70 million Americans have a criminal record? Also, more than 600,000 people come home from prison every year in the U.S. 8% of Americans have been convicted of a felony, and 3% of the U.S. population has been in prison, and a much higher number has been in jail. Now, many times people will ask me, well, what's the big difference between prison and jail? Quickly, normally jail is used when you have maybe a short sentence or maybe you're waiting to, go to trial or seeing if you're going to be indicted. So you're usually there a shorter period of time. Sometimes if you get a short sentence, 6 months, on a state sentence, you'll spend it in a jail. But what many people don't realize is a jail, a county jail or a city jail, is the worst place to do your time. First of all, violence is high. 2, programming is very limited. There's not usually classes you can take. You're pretty much locked in a small area with a group of other men or women and not much to do. You have limited area for recreation, unlike prison where you might have a yard where you actually go outside, can exercise. And as I stated, county jail is a much harder time. First of all, you have all different types of people in there. Some in there for serious crimes, some for, misdemeanors, but we're all thrown in together. I can tell you from experience, having to spend over a year in a county jail without seeing daylight for more than 6 months has a mental effect on you. So this also speaks to some of the issues people have when they come out and re-enter society. Now, prison is a little different. You're still confined, but it's usually in a much bigger area. You'll usually have either a cell or a dorm. Also, there's much more programming. You'll have a job where you can go to each day, then you can have time to exercise, then there's television you can watch, things like that. Now, there is television in county jail, but it's not, you might have one television for maybe 50 guys. Or in prison, it's a little more spread out. Neither one of them are an ideal situation, but that gives you a little idea of the difference. So when individuals come home from either jail or imprisonment, their mindset, as I've talked about in other videos, is a little different, and they're going to need time to acclimate back into society. That's why they normally go to halfway houses, and this is where you're able to slowly re-enter society, first by, getting a job. And that's why I wanted to talk to many of you out there who may have companies or might be in HR departments that could maybe start looking at what are ways that you could change some of your hiring practice to include people who are returning to society. These people are a valuable asset to our society. As many of our society, baby boomers, Generation X, are getting older, especially in the construction industry, there's a scramble to find new talent. And returning citizens can and have made up some of this new talent, but they also can help in other industries. There are many companies, even here locally and nationally, that have a no felony policy, which to me, I think is unfair. They're more than willing to take these individuals' money to buy their products, but they're not willing to give them a second chance to work in their companies. Now, I understand there are some regulations, state and federal, that might prohibit someone from hiring someone that is returning from, incarceration or who has struggled with substance abuse. But in many times and in many situations, this isn't the case. Now, a few ways that this can possibly be done, and companies have asked me well, you've had 123 employees and basically 98% of them were returning citizens. How did you do it? And I've suggested to them that one way is first look at everyone like a person. Many times people will just refer to them as ex-cons or convicts. Now that language is slowly being taken out of society. So that's why a lot of times we'll refer to them as returning citizens, people who were formerly incarcerated. And in the link below, I have included the SHRM Foundation has a program called Getting Talent Back to Work that I recommend that HR managers and presidents, CEOs of companies take to maybe use it as a framework to set up programs to open the doors for these individuals to have a place in your company and in our community. Now, by doing this, I'm not saying you just say, okay, well, we're going to hire them no matter what they did in the past. But maybe start looking at people who have low-level felonies, such as nonviolent crimes, and maybe start there. There are many times people might have had a violent crime, but it might have been older. Maybe somebody when they were 20 years old and now they're 50 or 40. I agree these things need to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. But by starting at least opening the doors a little bit and saying, okay, we're not going to just say no felonies at all, but if it's a nonviolent felony and it happened 2 years ago or at least 24 months ago, then we'll look at their application. And of course, make sure they have the skills and the work ethic to perform the job as you would want. I'm not saying just say, okay, well, let's bring them in. They have a felony. We got to hire them. No, I'm not saying that. One thing I learned while I was incarcerated, I saw many different people from all different walks of life, all different races, and they had many different talents. There were those who had more construction-based talent, some were welders, some, were artists, all different types of people and all different types of talent. So with this being said, this gave me the idea that, hey, wait a minute, if these people can basically perform this work in prison, and many of you don't realize this, everything that goes on inside of a prison, from the kitchen, and most people see that in movies, they think, okay, all the prisoners work in the kitchen. Well, that's impossible because the kitchen isn't that big. There's not that many people to feed that you need every inmate to work in there. But construction projects that go on in prison, whether it be asbestos removal, it could be just drywalling and painting, pouring concrete. Also in the prison I was at, there was a steam system that ran the prison. There were guys who worked in the steam room. There's other guys who would cut the grass. Then there's other guys that might do electrical work. But basically every task that is done out here in the community, someone is doing that same task in the prison environment. So these people are not just coming home untalented, unskilled, people just wanting to sit on their porch and do nothing. Many of these individuals want to work, want to get back into society and actually be productive members of society, but they need a chance. We can't hire all of them. So I wanted to make this video to suggest that maybe some of the companies who have had maybe more stringent, policies on not hiring returning citizens, look at the course I mentioned in the link below by the Sherm Foundation and the research that they've done and the success they show that various companies have had in hiring returning citizens. Remember, it takes everyone in a community to make that community grow, strive, and be productive. If we leave individuals out where they have no hope and they're not wanted, many times they will revert back to illegal activity, drug use, and that'll just be a further burden on the community. I hope this information has helped you, and always remember, to build a strong community, it starts one job at a time.